In the fading light of a crisp autumn afternoon in Mill Creek, Ohio, the world seemed to hold its breath. Little Sprouts Daycare, with its colorful murals peeling at the edges and a playground scattered with forgotten toys, was a sanctuary for the town's youngest souls. But on this day in September 2025, 4-year-old Lily Harper shattered that illusion. Her tiny frame, usually buzzing with the innocent energy of childhood, moved with a hesitance that tugged at the heartstrings of her teachers. Miss Emily, a 28-year-old with soft brown eyes and a gentle smile that had comforted countless scraped knees, noticed it first. As Lily reached for a crayon during art time, her sleeve slipped up, revealing a patchwork of bruises, deep purples and yellows that spoke of pain no child should know. Emily's heart clenched like a fist in her chest. She knelt down, her voice a whisper laced with fear and tenderness. "Oh, sweetie, what happened to your arm?" Lily's big blue eyes, one clouded with a hazy veil that dimmed her once bright gaze, filled with tears. She pulled her sleeve down quickly, her lower lip trembling. I fell down," she stammered, but the lie hung heavy in the air, as fragile as a soap bubble. Emily exchanged a glance with Miss Clara, her older colleague whose years in childcare had honed her instincts like a blade. Clara's face paled, her mind flashing to the mandatory reporter training they'd all endured, the stories of children lost to silence. They couldn't wait. With hearts pounding and a knot of dread in their stomachs, Emily and Clara bundled Lily into Emily's car and drove to Mill Creek General Hospital. The ER waiting room was a blur of fluorescent lights and muffled cries, but Dr. Rachel Nguyen cut through the chaos like a beacon. Rachel, a mother herself to 2 young boys, felt a maternal ache as she examined Lily. The bruises mapped a story of torment, welts on her back from what looked like a belt, fingerprints etched into her fragile skin, and that partial loss of vision in her left eye, a hematoma pressing against nerves, stealing the light from her world. Rachel's hands shook slightly as she documented it all, her mind screaming in silent rage. When Lily finally spoke, her voice was a fragile thread. "Daddy hit me," she whispered, clutching a stuffed bear the nurse had given her. The words pierced Rachel like shards of glass, evoking memories of her own childhood shadows, distant echoes of arguments behind closed doors. She hugged Lily gently, fighting back tears, as the hospital protocol kicked in, calls to Child Protective Services, police notifications, a whirlwind of adults trying to mend what had been so cruelly broken. Sarah Bennett, the CPS caseworker assigned to Lily, arrived with the weight of too many similar cases on her shoulders. At 42, Sarah had seen the worst humanity could offer, children with hollow eyes, parents trapped in cycles of despair. But Lily's vulnerability hit her like a wave. Sitting in a softly lit room adorned with faded posters of smiling animals, Sarah leaned forward, her voice warm like a blanket. "Can you tell me about home, Lily? About Daddy?" Lily's story spilled out in halting bursts, hunger gnawing at her belly, asking for food, and then the pain, fists and shouts that echoed in her nightmares. Sarah's throat tightened. She thought of her own daughter, safe at home, and vowed silently to be Lily's shield. Then came Jessica Harper, Lily's mother, bursting into the hospital like a storm. Her face was gaunt, her pregnant belly a stark contrast to the exhaustion in her eyes. "What happened? Is she okay?" Jessica cried, but Sarah caught the undercurrent of panic, not just for Lily, but for something else. As Jessica sat down, the truth unraveled. She had coached Lily to blame Tom, her ex-husband, because the real culprit was Mike, her fiancé. "I'm pregnant," Jessica sobbed, her hands cradling her unborn child as if it were her only anchor. "I can't lose him. He's all I have." The confession was a gut punch to Sarah, a mother's love twisted into betrayal, sacrificing her daughter's truth for a fragile illusion of stability. Jessica's tears flowed freely now, regrets pouring out like rain, memories of her own abusive childhood, the cycle she swore she'd break, now repeating in horrifying clarity. Tom Harper arrived next, a towering man with calloused hands from years of manual labor, his eyes bloodshot not from drink this time, but from sleepless worry. He stormed into the interview room, his voice booming with desperation. "I'd die before hurting my baby girl," he roared, but then his shoulders slumped, and he collapsed into a chair burying his face in his hands. Sobs racked his body as he spoke of his love for Lily, the way her laughter lit up his darkest days, how he'd fought his demons for her. But he admitted his failures, the alcohol that had drowned his sorrows, the fights with Jessica that had scarred them all. "I think Mike's not just hitting her," Tom whispered, his voice breaking. "God help me, I think he's touching her." The allegation hung like a noose, evoking a primal fury in Sarah, mingled with sorrow for this broken family. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Lily was whisked away to the Thompsons' foster home, a warm, inviting house on the edge of town, filled with the scent of fresh-baked cookies and the sound of a dog's gentle bark. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, childless after years of trying, enveloped Lily in hugs that felt like home. But as Lily lay in her new bed, staring at the ceiling with her good eye, tears slipped down her cheeks. She missed her mommy's songs, her daddy's silly stories, but the fear lingered like a shadow, whispering that love could hurt. Back in her car, Sarah gripped the steering wheel, tears blurring the road. This case wasn't just files and reports, it was a child's shattered innocence, a mother's desperate denial, a father's redemption quest. The town whispered, neighbors sharing hushed stories over fences, social media ablaze with speculation. Emily, unable to sleep, replayed the day, her heart aching with what-ifs. Clara held her husband close that night, grateful for their own children's safety. Jessica, alone in her apartment, curled around her belly, whispering apologies to the child within and the one she'd failed. Mike paced, his anger simmering, unaware of the storm he'd unleashed. Tom poured out his whiskey, staring at Lily's photo, his heart a battlefield of hope and regret. Sarah knew the investigation would be grueling. Interviews, medical tests, court battles. but in the quiet of the night she felt a fierce determination ignite. For Lily, she'd fight through the darkness, unravel the secrets, and chase the light of healing. The bruises would fade, but the emotional scars, those would demand every ounce of empathy the world could muster. The CPS office in Mill Creek was a fortress of fluorescent despair, walls lined with faded motivational posters that mocked the gravity of the work within. Sarah Bennett sat at her desk, surrounded by mountains of paperwork, each page a testament to Lily's suffering. It had been a week since that fateful hospital visit, and the weight of the case pressed on her like an unrelenting tide. Medical reports detail the horror, repeated blows causing internal bruising, the eye injury that could have been prevented with one act of courage, and the whispers of sexual abuse. Subtle signs in the exams that made Sarah's stomach churn, evoking a visceral grief for the innocent stolen. Interviews became marathons of emotion. With Jessica, Sarah peeled back layers of denial in a stuffy conference room. Jessica's eyes, rimmed with exhaustion, darted like trapped birds. "He didn't mean it," she murmured, her voice cracking under the strain, but as Sarah gently probed, Jessica's facade crumbled. Sobs erupted as she confessed her fears, the loneliness that had driven her to Mike, the pregnancy that bound her tighter. "I saw the bruises," Jessica whispered, her hands twisting in her lap. "But I told myself it was an accident. I coached her to lie because I couldn't face losing everything again." The admission was a dagger to Sarah's heart. She reached out, touching Jessica's arm, feeling the shared humanity in their tears. Jessica's story poured out, her own abusive marriage to Tom, the beatings that left her bruised in body and spirit, the escape that now felt like a trap. Mike's interview was a different storm. In the police station's cold interrogation room, he sat defiant, his broad shoulders tense, eyes cold as steel. "Kids get hurt playing," he snarled, but Sarah saw the flicker of guilt, the way his fists clenched. When confronted with Lily's words, his anger flared, then deflated into silence. Sarah left the room shaken, her mind flooded with images of Lily's tiny body enduring such rage. A home visit to their apartment amplified the heartache. Cluttered rooms echoing with unspoken violence, a child's drawings hidden in corners, depicting monsters with angry faces. Jessica stood in the doorway, tears streaming, whispering, "I can change this." For her, Tom's world was a stark contrast. A modest trailer on the outskirts, scrubbed clean in a bid for redemption. He welcomed Sarah with trembling hands, offering coffee that tasted of desperation. "I've been sober," he said, his voice thick with emotion, pulling out his double chip like a talisman. Tears welled as he spoke of his past, the blackouts, the regrets, the love for Lily that burned brighter than any bottle. "She's my light," he choked out, showing photos of happier times, Lily on his shoulders, giggling at a fair. But when he voiced his suspicions about Mike, his face contorted in agony. If he touched her... God, Sarah, how do I live with not protecting her? Sarah's eyes misted. She saw a man fighting his demons, but the scars of his alcoholism lingered, a reminder of fragility. Karen Walsh, the guardian ad litem, became Lily's voice in the chaos. In sessions filled with toys and crayons, Karen coaxed stories from Lily's guarded heart. "The monster comes at night," Lily drew, her crayons pressing hard enough to tear the paper. Karen's heart broke with each revelation, hugging Lily as tears flowed freely. The inconsistency, blaming Tom one day, Mike the next, spoke of a child's confusion, manipulated by adult fears. Karen fought back her own sobs, channeling them into fierce advocacy. The community pulsed with raw emotion. On X, posts from Mill Creek residents poured out sympathy and rage. "How could a mother let this happen?" One cried, while another defended Tom. "He's changing for his girl. Give him a chance." Sarah scrolled through them late at night, her heart aching for the divided town. One rainy evening, Sarah visited Lily at the Thompsons. The home was a haven of warmth, but Lily's eyes held shadows. As they colored together, Lily whispered, "Mike hurts me, Miss Sarah, makes me cry." The words were a breakthrough, but they shattered Sarah anew. She held Lily close, inhaling the scent of shampoo and innocence, vowing protection. Meetings with her supervisor, Linda, were fraught with tension. "We push for reunification," Linda said, but Sarah argued passionately, tears in her eyes. "Not if it breaks her more." The system's flaws, overloaded courts biased toward families, fueled her frustration. As evidence mounted, a neighbor's tearful testimony of screams, Mike's incriminating phone searches, the arrest came. Jessica collapsed in grief, her world unraveling. Tom intensified his efforts, his letters to Lily poetry of paternal love. Lily, in foster care, began to bloom, smiles tentative, nightmares fading, but her questions about mommy and daddy tugged at the Thompsons' hearts. Sarah lay awake nights, haunted by Lily's face, the emotional toll a constant companion. This wasn't just a case, it was souls intertwined in pain and hope, unraveling toward truth. The Mill Creek County Courthouse loomed like a sentinel of judgment, its stone facade etched with the echoes of broken lives mended or shattered. On that fateful October morning, the hearing room buzzed with restrained emotion, air thick with anticipation. Sarah sat rigid, her heart a drumbeat of anxiety. Karen Walsh stood tall, her voice steady but laced with passion as she laid out Lily's story, the bruises that mapped terror, the lies that fractured trust, the tiny soul caught in a whirlwind of adult failures. Jessica took the stand first, her swollen belly a poignant reminder of life's fragility. Her eyes, swollen from crying, met the judge's. "I failed her," she admitted, voice breaking like fragile glass. Sobs racked her as she recounted her denial, the fear that had blinded her. "Every night, I see her face, hear her cries. I want to be the mother she deserves." The courtroom fell silent, save for sniffles. Even the judge's expression softened. But cross-examination exposed her vulnerabilities, the enabling, the coaching, leaving Jessica exposed, raw, her tears a river of regret. Tom followed, his steps heavy with the burden of redemption. He gripped the stand, knuckles white, tears streaming as he bared his soul. I was lost in the bottle, in anger, he confessed, voice hoarse. But Lily, she's my miracle. I'd give my life to see her smile without fear. He shared stories of their bond, bedtime tales, park adventures, each word a plea from a father's aching heart. The judge nodded, moved by his progress, but the past lingered like a ghost. The Thompsons testified next, their voices warm with love. Lily's laughter fills our home now, Mrs. Thompson said, dabbing her eyes. But her nightmares, they break us. They spoke of her growth, drawing happy families, hugging without flinching, but also the voids she asks for her parents every day. The emotion was palpable, a collective heartache for the child who'd stolen their hearts. The judge's deliberations stretched like eternity, each day a torment for those involved. When the ruling came, foster care for 6 months, supervised visits, mandatory counseling, relief mingled with sorrow. Sarah hugged Karen, tears of bittersweet victory flowing. Jessica wept in isolation, vowing change. Tom punched the air in quiet triumph, then knelt in prayer. The ensuing months were a tapestry of healing. Jessica's counseling sessions were cathartic storms, confronting her past, severing ties with Mike amid his trial. She moved to a shelter, her letters to Lily brimming with love. Mommy's getting stronger for you, baby. Tom thrived in sobriety, his new home a canvas of preparation, pink walls, stuffed animals awaiting. His visits with Lily were magic, tears of joy as she ran into his arms whispering, I love you, Daddy. Lily blossomed with the Thompsons, her vision mending, her spirit rebounding. Yet, in quiet moments, she'd clutch her bare, tears for the family fractured. The Thompsons nurtured her, their love a bridge to possibility, even as adoption loomed. Community support swelled. Fundraisers, prayers, threads of hope. Lily's story reminds us to protect our kids. Sarah visited often, her bond with Lily deepening, a surrogate aunt in the storm. As the final hearing neared, emotions crested. Sarah's report balanced progress with caution, her heart torn. In the courthouse once more, testimonies flowed like healing waters. Jessica, transformed, spoke of rebirth. Tom, steadfast, of unwavering love. The judge, moved, granted joint custody with safeguards. Lily splitting time, therapy ongoing. Outside, under falling leaves, Sarah watched Lily reunite with her parents, tiny hands in theirs. Tears streamed, joy, relief, lingering pain. Healing wasn't linear, but in that moment, hope bloomed. Lily's smile, bright and unshadowed, was the emotional triumph they'd all fought for.